Good evening. I'm Alan Jackson. Welcome to Nashville. I've often said that politicians alone are not the answer. And I want to be certain that you understand what we're watching. You broke through. Your participation in this election made an enormous difference. Historically low propensity voters showed up for the November 5th election. It's a stunning outcome. It surprised a lot of watchers. The electoral results now are in. Trump had 312 votes, Kamala Harris 226. Both the House and the Senate won Republican majorities. It's remarkable to watch the impact your choices had, your engagement have had. Kamala and Biden, they lied about many things, the economy, the border, the impact of Roe v. Wade, and your responses to it. We watched big media fade. People found the truth on their own terms. Democrats used lawfare. We watched it week after week in courtroom after courtroom in multiple states, but the voters saw through it. What finally motivated millions more people to vote? Well, people of all parties knew they were doing better when Trump was president, but he was running with a huge disadvantage this time. $2 billion worth of donations for the Democrat ticket. But no amount of money could change the truth. Not their truth, but the truth. Well, Ashley Hayek is the executive director of America First Works, and she had a very big part in getting out the vote and getting Mr. Trump reelected. Welcome back to our show, and congratulations on the victory.
Thank you. I think it's congratulations to everybody because, my goodness, our country needed this.
Amen to that. Well, 4 years ago, when the President Trump lost to Joe Biden, I heard a lot of people say that Democrats always did better at the ground game, getting people out to vote, from the early voting all the way through Election Day. Was it that challenge that got you and your colleagues at America First to press even harder, not just with Republicans, but with millions of people in the middle who need a real push sometimes to show up and vote?
Well, as a mom, I have 5 little kids. I think about the future of our country and their future every single day, and what kind of world my children are going to inherit, and whether they'll have the same opportunities that I had, and if they'll grow up in a safe community, or they'll know what it means to live in a country where everything is possible and where we have freedom and liberty. And that was all on the line this election. I really believe that this election was going to be the determination of the future of not just our country, but of the world. The world has been on the brink now, especially the past 2 years under the Biden administration. And so I think our entire organization at America First Works felt convicted that we need to do something. The most amazing thing was the Democrat attorney, he's an activist attorney named Mark Elias, asked for an opinion from the Federal Election Commission, the FEC, about the ground game, whether or not 501c4 organizations like America First Works could legally coordinate with political campaigns, federal campaigns, on door-to-door canvassing. And that's basically when you go and you knock on someone's door and you ask them to go and vote for a particular person. Before, 501c4s had to work completely independent from political campaigns. There could be no coordination at all, and it was considered a big political expense. Well, the FEC ruled in his favor, saying that it was no longer coordination. So groups like America First Works, Chase PA, Faith and Freedom could now legally work with the Trump campaign on door-to-door canvassing. We knew that Mark Elias asked for that opinion, and we were going to do everything possible to make him regret it. And we did.
Well, one of the things you said after the election was women aren't falling for the left's empty promises anymore, and they're not afraid to say so. Tell us what their biggest empty promises were, especially to women, that your team figured out.
Well, there was a couple things. For months, the radical left and their media lapdogs just peddled the lie. There was historic turnout for Kamala Harris, claiming that, women and minority groups were flocking to their side. But you can't call women birthing people. You can't call them us chest feeders. You can't say that, men should be allowed in women's bathrooms and locker rooms and in women's sports, and then think that they're going to get the votes of women. They have taken away our rights. They've taken away all of our progress. They've made us feel unsafe. And then just as a parent, you look at the formula crisis in 2022. You look at the cost of orange juice when you go to the grocery store, trying to put gas in your car when you're taking your kids to soccer practice. All of that had a major impact. So what we saw was there was 112,000 more Republican women who, and 546,000 less Democrat women who had turned out in this election compared to 2020. And those are in all of the battleground states. And we saw that shift in every single demographic, whether it was young Black men, Hispanic Americans, young women, young men. Every single demographic strongly shifted towards the America First movement. And it's because of these lies that they peddled, all of the gaslighting by the establishment media, and people pushing back and saying, to your opening statement, we know the truth. We know how these policies have affected us, and we want change. We want President Trump's policies.
Well, I know you also worked even more specifically on mothers and single women who are family breadwinners. You called the initiative, and I love this, it's Read, Write, and Win, and that's Write, W-R-I-T-E, creating a brighter future for our children, safe neighborhoods, and affordable living. I'm guessing that your clever branding initiative hit home with fathers too.
Well, everyone was welcome to participate, and we had a lot of volunteers who wrote to women in battleground states, especially women. Actually, the most active group of women were from California. They would say, I'm from the state of California. We've lived under these horrible policies. Make sure to vote this election. Your vote matters. And those postcards, literally hundreds of thousands of postcards, were sent to women in battleground states, encouraging them to turn out and vote and to make sure their voice was heard. And that was an extremely effective turnout mechanism for us.
I think the Democrats thought they had a winning issue after the Dobbs decision on abortion. I remember hearing the Kamala Harris pitch targeting Mr. Trump.
He is not going to be fighting for women's reproductive rights. He does not prioritize the freedom of women and the intelligence of women to make decisions about their own lives and bodies. And health care for all Americans is on the line in this election as well.
Did it worry you when Biden dropped out and the Democrats put a woman up against Mr. Trump?
Absolutely not. And it's because, well, first of all, I think a lot of Democrats were very upset that they didn't have a say in their primary. And this just goes to show you that that is the party of control. They want to control people. They want to control their party. And the American people did not get a say in that election. And that in and of itself was wrong. It was a huge problem. I find it very funny that Kamala Harris talks about how Donald Trump wants to take away healthcare rights from women. I'm sorry, but I think the left is taking away more healthcare rights from families and women than anybody. When you're taking away our opportunity to choose our own doctor, when you're not giving us transparency on our healthcare services with the hospital price transparency, when your administration caused the cost of prescription drugs or insulin to go up, and then they had to backpedal on that policy. I mean, this is an administration that does not prioritize women, men, elderly, or families whatsoever, and we saw it day in and day out. So we knew that that message was going to fall flat. We saw it all the way through 2016 through 2024. It was always bad MAGA, January 6th, and abortion. But quite frankly, that does not resonate with everyday Americans. And that's the difference between President Trump, who's the greatest communicator, I think, in modern day, and the Kamala Harris and the Democrat Party.
Well, let's take a short break. You can send me your thoughts on the conversation. You're all welcome to join in. You can send them to comments at alanjacksonnow.com. I'll be right back. Well, I'm back now with the Executive Director of America First Works, Ashley Hayek. Soon it will be President-elect Trump's time to deliver results. He's already begun stirring the pot internationally, marking the Panama Canal and Greenland as places where America needs to assert itself. I'm pretty sure that most people don't know the economic and national security value of both. So can he really create some new momentum there?
I think he will absolutely create new momentum. And that's what he campaigned on, was new ideas, being the leader on the world stage, making sure that we are the leader on the world stage, regaining trust with our allies and putting fear in our enemies. And that's what President Trump did so well in the first administration. And that's what's going to help us deliver the second administration. One thing that's really important to remember, though, is the hard work is just beginning. What the election was amazing and it was great. And we knocked on doors and we did the postcards and text messaging and all the things. But now we have to get his nominees confirmed. Now we need to get, his bill passed in the first 100 days. Now we need to make sure that we help him deliver those promises and we keep the truth and delivering the truth to the American people. Because if you recall the first 4 years of the administration of his first term, the left will do anything possible to try and stop him. So we have to make sure that we are doing everything we can to advance these policies and save our country.
Absolutely. And the lawfare is not over yet. The Democrat diehards are still trying to put a permanent stain on Mr. Trump's record. How do you think that's being received by the wider Democrat Party? They seem to be stumbling around trying to figure out how to regain their footing nationally.
Well, since the day after the election, the Democrat Party has been trying to search for answers, but they haven't really reflected as to why they lost, and they're still very out of touch with the American people, and they'll continue to be. I still believe that there is a portion of the Democrat Party that will do anything possible to try and keep President Trump from being sworn into office on January 20th, because this is their worst possible nightmare. And lawfare was just one of the tools that they used to do that. And we're seeing that with Judge Merchan right now. I'm hoping the Supreme Court will move forward and pick this up. I hope that President Trump is protected. This was unwarranted. He always said, they're coming after you. I'm just in the way. And, one of those nominees through the nomination process is Pam Bondi for Department of Justice. We need to make sure that she gets through Senate confirmation. So call your senator, make sure you back Pam Bondi. That is going to be a critical component to making sure there's no more weaponization of justice in our government.
Before he leaves office for good, Biden keeps making promises that he's not going to be able to deliver. He promised the flood victims that he would be with them until their homes are rebuilt and that they're still living in tents and fighting with insurance companies. He's done it now with the Los Angeles fire victims, and he used the occasion to remind people that his troubled son, Hunter, lives out there and that he has a new grandson. That's not what the people of Los Angeles wanted to hear. Do the Democrats have any way to rebuild their party and their credibility with the American people?
I don't think so at this point in time, and it's really unfortunate. Anytime that, there was a tragedy in our country, President Biden was not able to even say Laken Riley's name. He was not able to honor the 13 service members who were killed during the disastrous withdrawal of Afghanistan. He never did anything for the people of East Palestine, Ohio. He was not helpful to the people of North Carolina, who still, some of them, they don't have their homes. You can't get to their homes. There's no running water, electricity. It is a devastating situation. And now, if you look at what's happening in Los Angeles, there's 0% containment. And you have a liberal Democrat governor who wants to be a president, who has literally set this state up for disaster, my home state. This party is so far gone and detached. It's rules for me and not for thee, or whatever this phrase is. They are exempt from what the rest of the country has to experience. That's going to change on day one of this new administration with President Trump. I remember on Inauguration Day in 2017 when he's talked about the forgotten man and woman. And we're going to hear that again, I truly believe, on January 20th of 2025. And it will be a great day for America. And I think it's going to be the beginning of a beautiful legacy for our country and President Trump.
Well, you alluded to it earlier, but before we go, let me tell our viewers what you said right after Mr. Trump won. You said, this isn't the end of a journey. It's the beginning of a brighter chapter in American history. Together, we're proving that true power rests not in Washington, but in the hands of the people. Well, that's right along the lines of what I've been saying. What happens in Washington, the people we elect, the policies they create, it all reflects the hearts of the American people. Now, I'm encouraged for the changes we're seeing, but there's more work for us to do. Is there anything you want to add tonight before you go? Your wisdom is making a big difference.
I would just say that everyone needs to remember that we, the people, not they, the elites, control our destiny. And so it is time for us to roll up our sleeves. We need to fix what's broken. We need to do it for our kids, for our communities, and for our country. President Trump just didn't get the electoral vote. He won the popular vote. We got the House and the Senate. Thank God Mike Johnson was elected Speaker with a breeze. But this is the moment the real work begins. This is our moment right now, whether it's at the state legislatures, whether it's in our school boards, whether it's in these court races in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin this year, whether it's advancing President Trump's agenda in Congress. Everyone needs to get all hands on deck. They can sign up at our website, and we'll find a job. There's plenty of work still to be done. But thank you so much for all of your work and for continuing to share the truth with your viewers, because that's so important.
So we have to continue to pay attention and be involved. We can't go sit down and celebrate.
That's right. That's right.
Amen. Well, Ashley Hayek, please come visit Nashville. We'd love to have you here on the set.
Well, thank you. I'd love to be there. It's a great city.
We're going to be tracking every bit of this better America that you've been working to build. And again, thank you for your time today, and congratulations on how you delivered the vote. When we come back, I'll have some hopeful thoughts of my own to share. I'll be right back. We're living through a season where the truth is still not celebrated often. Deception too frequently seems to be championed. Well, I believe in front of us, we're going to have to endure, walk through, and overcome a season of more confusion, chaos, and disruption, because the people that initiated it don't intend to see the momentum of that destruction that they've unleashed disrupted. They don't want our biblical worldview in the public square and in the public schools. Well, the future is not going to be determined by politicians, political parties, ideologies, or even nation states. I believe all of those things are real, and they have expressions of power and authority. I'm not denying that. But there is a greater and higher power and authority. It's the one we have chosen to serve as Christ followers. In 2 Peter chapter 1, verses 3 and 4, the fisherman that Jesus recruited reminds us of something. He's nearing the end of his own life. He said, His divine power has given us everything we need for a godly life through our knowledge of Him who called us by His own glory and goodness. Through these, He's given us His very great and precious promises, so that through them you may participate in the divine nature, having escaped the corruption in the world caused by evil desires. Our awareness of God's principles helps us escape the intent of evil. Well, I want to give you an invitation that I think will add some momentum to us at the beginning of the year. I want to invite you to join me in reading through the Gospels, the first 4 books of the New Testament. It's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. With about a 10 or 15-minute commitment a day, we can read through all 4 Gospels in about 60 days. You can go to our website for the details for the daily portions. It'll help make it simple. You can go to the app. It'll even read it to you. I believe if we'll do that, it'll bring the blessing of God upon us and open our hearts to what He's doing in the earth. If we'll do that, there's more reasons for hope than despair, I promise. Well, coming up after the break, we'll take you to a rare and powerful moment at former President Jimmy Carter's funeral, where all the living presidents gathered to reflect. Finally this evening, a rare moment this week at the funeral service of former President Carter. All the living presidents, vice presidents, and many of the first ladies together listening to tributes about a different time in American politics. Just like the people you see filling the pews in Washington this week, the political maneuvering around Jimmy Carter, it was also quite spirited. While Carter's been criticized for a lot of what happened during his time in office, everyone gives him credit for how he used the many years after he left the White House to contribute full-time with hammer and nails in hand for the good of the American people. Carter's children were all there, as were the 38 grandchildren and great-grandchildren. The extraordinary moment reminded me of a quote I heard from Reverend Jesse Jackson, who'd gone to see Hubert Humphrey 3 days before he died. The former Democratic vice president had just called Richard Nixon, who had been his lifetime political enemy. Well, he called Nixon from his dying bed, and many people wondered why. So Jesse asked him, to which Humphrey said, and I quote, "Jesse, from this vantage point, with the sun setting in my life, all of the speeches, the political conventions, the crowds, and the great fights are behind me now. At a time like this, you're forced to deal with your irreducible essence, forced to grapple with that which is really important to you, and what I have concluded about life." Hubert Humphrey went on to say that when all is said and done, we must forgive each other and redeem each other and then move on. Well, that's our report for this week. I'm Alan Jackson in Nashville, and good night.